Donald Trump really just went there, and it should be no surprise to any of us. He's spared no expense in covering his ass in his Jeffrey Epstein scandal, shutting down Congress, spinning up new conspiracies, lying at all costs because he knows what's in those files is damaging beyond our knowledge. And it's the reason he's trying to keep everyone around him quiet, including Ghislaine Maxwell, who, in an effort to make sure someone Donald Trump once wished well continues to have good feelings towards him, ABC obtained a report about the deal that Trump struck with Maxwell in her meetings with Attorney General Todd Blanche. We're going to get into it all and how it's backfiring on Trump. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way. Now, before we can get into the deal that was cut with Maxwell, we first have to start with the context of the meeting today, broken down by Nicole Wallace.
The American people may never know, really know, what was said, what was revealed, what was asked, and what was answered today within the four walls of a courthouse conference room in Tallahassee, Florida. And therein lies the problem. Because for the second time in 2 days, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche blurred the lines between his old job and his new one, with his role at the Justice Department on one hand and his former role as Donald Trump's personal attorney on the other. Blanche departed his interview with Jeffrey Epstein's accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, a short time ago. Ghislaine Maxwell's attorney, David Oscar Marcus, said that at no point over the last 2 days did his client, Maxwell, refuse to answer a question. But here again, we have to take his word for it. It's not just that the rest of us are without any transcripts or recordings or witnesses in the course of the Trump administration's effort at fact-finding, if that's what we're calling it. It's that it also feels like we're without any reliable narrators. After all, Donald Trump, a man with a pre-existing adversarial relationship with the truth and the press, appears to be growing less and less forthright on this topic by the day. Remember when the Wall Street Journal, exactly 1 week ago today, reported that Trump sketched, scribbled, and signed a letter for inclusion in Jeffrey Epstein's 50th birthday book? Trump's reaction? He said it was fake. He sued the publication, along with a number of individuals, including Rupert Murdoch. But today, the New York Times is reporting this, quote, Trump's name appeared on a contributor list for a book celebrating Epstein's birthday. Evidence that he participated in the collection, even as he denied that he signed a sexually suggestive note and drawing, end quote. Now, again, these stories are not suggesting or providing evidence that Donald Trump committed crimes or engaged in illegal conduct. He's denied every allegation. But Democrats and Republicans alike, even some of Donald Trump's own most devoted supporters and backers, have growing questions about the Epstein story and Trump's transparency on it.
We have no idea what is happening in these conversations. All we know is that Donald Trump's interests are the #1 priority of everyone involved. How to make our petulant child president happy is what is on the mind of everyone in this situation right now. Not transparency, not looking out for victims. Donald Trump thinks Ghislaine Maxwell.
Ghislaine Maxwell, what are you hoping that they get out of that?
I really have really nothing to say about it. She is being talked to by a very smart man, by a very good man, Todd Blanche. And I don't know anything about the conversation. I haven't really been following it. A lot of people are asking me about pardons. Obviously, this is no time to be talking about pardons. But a lot of people have asked about pardon. This is just not a time to be talking about pardons.
Donald Trump says he's not thinking about pardons, he's not thinking about immunity, he's not thinking about anything. But that's just not true, and we can see that in an ABC report that details what was the nature of an interview with Ghislaine Maxwell in which her lawyer said she didn't once plead the fifth. She answered every question, and we're seeing why right now. Ghislaine Maxwell received limited immunity during meeting with Deputy Attorney General, sources say. She didn't hold anything back. Ghislaine Maxwell, who sources told ABC News initiating the meetings with the Department of Justice, answered questions for about 9 hours over 2 days after being granted a limited form of immunity, the sources said. The immunity allowed Maxwell to freely answer Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche's questions without fear that her responses could later be used against her, the sources said. This so-called proffer immunity is commonly granted to individuals prosecutors are seeking to make cooperators in a criminal case. Maxwell has already been tried, convicted, and sentenced for trafficking underage girls. The DOJ, unsurprisingly, did not immediately respond to requests for comment. A lawyer for Maxwell did not immediately respond either. So Ghislaine Maxwell was given what is commonly referred to as limited immunity, a deal with Todd Blanche and Donald Trump to provide information that could potentially incriminate her. Now, one perspective on that is that, okay, maybe this information involves Jeffrey Epstein's clients who was around him, and of course, Ghislaine Maxwell was a part of that criminal cabal. It could also mean that she was perjuring herself, but won't be held accountable for that. Now, I offer up two very different answers to this question because we don't know. That's the whole point. Donald Trump's personal attorney in Todd Blanche is doing the work not of the Deputy Attorney General, but of Donald Trump's personal attorney, making sure that he is safe, that he is out of harm's way when it comes to his Epstein scandal. We should be able to speak in conspiracy thought around this meeting without being questioned or saying it's partisan hackery because we truly don't know anything. Our questions are valid. Donald Trump has kept this in the dark, and now he cut a deal with Ghislaine Maxwell to let her say whatever she wants. And I'm assuming she didn't tell the truth, because she's lied under oath before. So, of course, someone seeking a pardon for Donald Trump is going to try to do whatever he wants, curry favor with him, and it's not a surprise. Donald Trump will go to any lengths to cover this all up. That includes shutting down Congress, of course, which is what he did this week with the help of Mike Johnson. And I spoke to Congressman Mark Pecan about all of that and how we message against Donald Trump's Epstein scandal. Congressman, you are currently not joining me from D.C. right now because Donald Trump and Mike Johnson really at the direction of Donald Trump because he's his puppet, have decided that shutting down Congress is the only way to get this Jeffrey Epstein story to go away. I think the opposite is going to happen. Trying to distract will only backfire on Donald Trump. What are you hearing from your Republican colleagues about how they feel about what's happening right now? I know they're trying to publicly, be very, ceremonial and that they don't want to say too much, but what are you hearing from them as they really start to feel the pressure from their constituents on releasing these files?
Yeah. So, trying to sweep an elephant under the rug isn't real effective, is it? And that's what they're trying to do, at least the leadership and Donald Trump is. But, for a lot of the Republican members, especially the MAGA type Republican members, this is a story, a conspiracy, an event, the list that happened that Donald Trump blew up into epic proportions of how important it was. And then apparently he finds out his name is on it, according to the Wall Street Journal. And now, nothing to look here, keep moving. And, it's hard to make people pivot that quick, even if the Republican Party is a cult these days and they follow a cult leader. This one is a little too abrupt for them. And when we've pushed to have this list made public, because let's have accountability for victims at minimum, right? That's what we're trying to do with this. All of a sudden now they can't do it because Donald Trump doesn't want to. Some of them, to their credit, are having some cognitive dissonance with this and saying, no, we've been told this is an important list. We got to get to it. And because of it, they literally shut down operations. So, we were going to be home starting, a certain period anyway for 5 weeks, but they had this final week, they couldn't even schedule bills over rebellion in their own caucus. So they feel it for sure from from people in their districts.
Yeah, and we're starting to see a little bit of a bend from Republicans, certain Republicans voting to subpoena. We saw the Epstein files, but also to have Ghislaine Maxwell come and testify. I want to get your take on this. Obviously, we don't know what Donald Trump is trying to do this morning. He didn't rule out possibly pardoning her.
Right.
Do you feel comfortable? Of course, we want transparency. That's what we're advocating for. But someone who so clearly is just trying to appeal to Trump, coming to Congress and maybe giving testimony that isn't necessarily true?
Yeah, I mean, if someone actually is in prison for procuring minors for someone to sexually abuse, it's going to be a little hard to take them super credibly, right?
Yeah.
And unless they have some documentation to put behind anything, that is a concern. But bringing it to Congress also raises the status of why we need to at least have the list released. So I get that. We had a bunch of amendments ready for appropriations, and they sent us home a day early as well. We were going to have a committee markup on criminal injustice for the budget bill, and they couldn't do it because we knew we would have had a bunch of amendments about releasing those lists. So, and Donald Trump does have that power of a pardon, and he doesn't have any ethics or scruples or morals. So, he would sell that off in order to protect himself. And we always have to keep that in mind.
Yeah, it just seems like the cover up is very clear right now. And it's important, I think, to remind people that this is not just a cover up for Donald Trump. Pam Bondi announcing case closed, sealed shut, we're done, also protects all of the rest of the abusers around Epstein. And so I see this so clearly as a class issue. Donald Trump, once again, protecting the rich, the wealthy, the well-off, the well-connected. I see a lot of Democrats in our messaging wanting to kind of immediately jump to connecting that to Donald Trump's big, ugly budget that just passed. And I understand that. But do you think that we should be talking about this as a standalone issue? Do you think it works by itself? Or do we need to loop in everything else as well?
Well, I do see a connection, because if you think about it, what was the goal of the big, ugly law? It's to provide big tax breaks for the wealthiest, for the elite in this country. What's the protection of this list about? It looks like it could be about protecting the elite. I mean, the Republican Party, Donald Trump said he went there to drain the swamp. He didn't tell you he's just going to build a high-rise condo development on it, right? I mean, that's the problem. So we do need to, I think, connect those issues, because that is what the Republican Party is largely about, is taking care of people like Donald Trump and Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos. And it's not about the average person. And as much as he pretends on issues like the border and other stuff, that's who he's protecting. No, at the end of the day, Donald Trump cares about one person, Donald Trump. And people need to realize he is about as elite as you can get in this country.
Yeah, and that's always what this administration's going to do. And you're hearing that from your constituents now.
Yes.
I'm sure a lot of what you're hearing as well is about, I think right now in this moment, being the opposition party and oftentimes not living up to that, more than anything, people just want to see fight. They want to see us be combative. They want to see us care and be raw in our emotions as much as, us who are feeling this all are. I think the best example of some of that fight has been the push back that we're getting with redistricting, right? And I know that there's been lots of independent, there's been lots of redistricting battles in your home state. What other ways do you think Democrats can show that we are going to be fighters right now? We are going to be on the offensive and not on the back foot when you eventually do come back to Congress?
Yeah. So first of all, I agree with you. I think, people are pissed. They're scared, they're concerned, and guess what? I'm pissed and I'm scared and I'm concerned, depending on the issue in the day. And they want to know that you feel what they're feeling, right? So the pushback is what they really want us to do. And I'll tell you, the best pushback, I think, is, and we now have 20 or 30 members. In fact, just recently, 50 members of the Progressive Caucus agreed to do this, is go into neighboring Republican districts and get in their face, right? So I've done 4 town halls, and I'm doing one next week in the Wisconsin 3, Derek Van Orden's district. Derek Van Orden is one of the bigger buffoons. He's one of the bigger buffoons that's ever been elected to Congress. He was literally an insurrectionist on the Capitol grounds who came to Congress, and he has never done an open public town hall in 2.5 years of being elected. So I've been doing them for him because, I'm trying to help out. But, I'm trying to make sure that people have a voice, right? And let them. So we went to Viroqua, Wisconsin, population 4,500. We had 400 to 500 people show up. We went to Eau Claire and La Crosse, and we had like 300 something show up in La Crosse. Now I'm going to Prairie du Chien, the town he lives in. He literally could take a scooter to the town hall if he wants to show up, and let's debate that bill. But I think going like that, being in their face and being aggressive, because, I believe in the common sense, the smell test. If they really think this bill is so good, they should want to get on the rooftop with a megaphone and talk about it every day,
Yeah.
right? That'd be what a normal person would do if they're proud of something. Instead, they're hiding in their basements. They refuse to do town halls. So by taking it to their districts and showing what hypocrites and liars they are, is a really good way to, I think, make people understand, not that he said, she said, this dollar amount, that dollar amount, this many people are going to lose health insurance, that many people are going to lose. No, anything they say is probably BS if they're not even able to get out there and communicate with their voters about it. So for me, get into other districts. And especially if you can do town halls, that's really strong.
Yeah, and I think that's so bang on. I think sometimes we get lost. Although these numbers are important, when you repeat these figures again and again and talk about millions of people, and yes, it is millions of people who are having their healthcare stolen. That's a tragedy. But that just it stops having an effect sometimes when you keep repeating just the number, being there and being in the rural hospitals that are closing, a nursing home that's shutting down, people who don't know if they're going to be bankrupt by their medical bills in the wealthiest country in the world is just insanity. I'm glad you're bringing that fight everywhere you go. And I appreciate you taking the time to bring it here. Thank you so much, Congressman.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thanks so much for having me.